So if we're thinking about Europe, Middle East and Africa, then of course those regions are very different. And so the types of projects that we've been doing vary depending on where you look. If we look at Africa, the projects are much more around basic waste management systems, basic infrastructure and systems to collect the waste, because that's the big challenge. At the moment, the waste is just not being collected. So somewhere like Johannesburg, we are working with a local informal waste picker community called the African Reclaimers Organization. They have 5,000 waste pickers, and we've worked with them to provide them with access to capital so they can get equipment, they can get a basic sorting center, they can get trucks to transport the waste, really transforming their ability to be productive. And it's really sort of tripled the amount of plastic that they're able to collect. So those types of projects in Africa are really on the front lines, basic waste collection systems. Then if you look at somewhere like the Middle East, somewhere like Saudi Arabia, where we also have projects in development, in Saudi Arabian cities, the collection is happening reasonably well, but as soon as it's collected, it all just goes to dump sites out in the desert. So the challenge there is different. It's about how can you sort that waste so that you can extract the recycled materials so that they can then be recycled. So in Saudi Arabia, we're looking at how can we upgrade sorting infrastructure that then will enable the recycling industry to take hold. And then if you look at Europe, again, it's completely different. And in Europe, the collection's happening very well across all of Europe. There is sorting, there is recycling, but there's opportunities for us to try to improve the efficiency of the system. So can we improve the way that waste is sorted? And we have projects doing that. Can we improve the way that waste is treated, for example, with decontamination technologies for polyolefin films, for example? So those types of projects are much more focused on innovation and how to improve the circularity of materials. So it really depends where you look. I think the critical thing for scalability is really the economics. If you have a technology or a business model or a solution that improves the circularity of waste, if it's economically viable, if it's financially self-sustaining, I think it scales on its own because people look at it, they see an opportunity to make money, and of course that then drives wide adoption of whatever the technology or solution is. But there are many parts of the world where certain aspects of building a circular economy are not yet economic. And so particularly if you look at less developed countries like Indonesia or South Africa or the Philippines, then the challenge there is really about trying to build the waste management systems that are collecting the waste so that you can then do something more useful with it. But the economics of building those waste management systems are very hard. And so for the Alliance, when we think about how do we improve that, it's really about developing business models that have much more attractive economics, but also partnering with large development finance institutions, the big development banks around the world that have an interest in funding waste management infrastructure because it's such a critical aspect of a good development journey for a country. So we're partnering with the big development banks in Indonesia, in India, in Vietnam, and Thailand, in South Africa, and many other places, combining our capital with the capital from these big development banks, and that enables us to build this waste management infrastructure at scale. I think it's very interesting if you look at the journey, particularly that companies have made in terms of trying to become much more circular in the way that they treat and manage their plastic footprint, their packaging, their products, and so on. And I think if you look in the early days when companies were really sort of waking up to this challenge and trying to respond to it about sort of reducing plastic pollution, building a more circular system. In the early days, many companies thought the easiest pathway was to do it alone, to focus their own efforts on their own products, their own packaging. And that's understandable because if you work alone, you can work faster and you're in control of everything. But I think today there are a lot of companies that have come to the realization that sustainability has to be a team sport. You cannot do this on your own, because if you want a circular system, it requires system level change. And the only way that you can get system level change is by getting everyone to collaborate together. The challenge, of course, is that it's really hard. Collaboration is really difficult, takes a long time, you have to build consensus, and none of that is easy. But if you want to see this system level change and the emergence of true circularity, it does require collaboration. And maybe on that subject, I can share a couple of quotations. The Alliance, we're a coalition of businesses, and the chair of the Alliance is the CEO of Dow, a guy called Jim Fitterling. And he always says to us that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go far, and so it does require collaboration. And our vice chair of the Alliance is a guy called John Muller, who's the CEO of Procter & Gamble. And his view is that the key to scalability is collaboration. He said if it's just 2 or 3 companies collaborating, you just won't achieve the scale you need. If you've got everyone there working together and coming together to collaborate, that's when you can get genuine scale. So I think companies are now coming to this recognition that doing it alone is just not going to work. You have to collaborate if you want to see things move forward. So I think our mission will remain the same. And really there's 2 parts to it. One is ending plastic pollution in the environment. It shouldn't be there, and we want to build the infrastructure that prevents it from leaking into the environment. And then the second thing is to build a circular economy. And the 2 really support each other. If you've got a circular economy that's viable with people wanting recycled materials to use them again, then there's an economic incentive to prevent the pollution. So stopping pollution, building circularity, those will continue to be our main focus. But I think we're changing slightly the way that we work. And so we today look for exciting projects all over the world that can demonstrate or show or prove a new business model, a new technology, a new solution to plastic waste. And we tend to find a good idea here and a good idea there, and they're all very exciting. But our board of directors has said to us, you're delivering impact at a community level, and we need to see you deliver impact at a systems level. So how do you think bigger? How do you get impact at scale rather than impact at just a community level? And so that's, I think, how we're going to change our approach. We're going to go much narrower, focus on just a few countries and a few value chains and a few materials, but really try to drive systems level change within those sort of narrow chosen areas. So I think you're going to see us go from a very broad, wide portfolio of projects to a very focused set that are really trying to drive the systems change that we need to build circularity in those chosen areas. It's been great. I've very much enjoyed being here. Great bunch of attendees, great bunch of speakers, very interesting content. I think everybody here is very passionate about building a circular economy. Everyone's got great ideas, so it's really good to come and just talk to people and listen to what they're saying and hear about what they're doing. So it's been a great sort of couple of days just to sort of connect and share and listen to others.